Job gendering. Why are nurses paid less than computer technicians? Is it skill? That nurses don't need math? Contemporary nursing, you need a lot of technical skill. No less than a computer scientist. Is it that men are paid more because their jobs are more dangerous than women? We've heard this, right? Men take risks. Men use physical prowess. Women, lesser. So, okay. How dangerous is computer science as a job? What danger do you face as a computer technician when you help someone to install their word processor? Compared to a nurse, in the era of COVID and post-COVID, helping people who are dying, risking death. Technical knowledge, scientific knowledge, danger, physical. How much more work do you have to do physically in an emergency room to restrain a patient? How dangerous is that? How much physical do you need? Compared to you go to somebody's office as a computer technician and they scream at you because they can't figure out how to reboot their computer. What danger do you face physically? So many of the arguments that you often hear about why male jobs versus female jobs require men to get paid more compared to women to get paid more don't make empirical sense. Female jobs are not safe. They're not secure. They don't require less technical knowledge. They don't require fewer years at university. Male jobs are not always more difficult, more dangerous, more skilled, right? So now, job gendering asks us, one of the biggest explanations of the wage gap is not discrimination. One of the biggest explanations of the wage gap is not that discrimination. Men and women do the same job and women earn less. That's what I talked about. As it happens, majority of the wage gap is because men and women do different jobs. Job gendering. Men do some kind of jobs, women do some kinds of jobs. And the reason for the wage gap, going back to Becker, is that women do some kinds of things, men do some kinds of things, and, that's just normal, that men's jobs, men's skills, men's dangers, men's knowledge, men's various requirements are higher than women's. Women's jobs, safer, easier, less education, less skill. But nursing, compared to computer science, computer tech, is a great example because it tells you that that is actually not an adequate explanation. So what explains what's going on? And the answer is job gendering. Women do not earn less because we somehow decide to work in jobs that have less danger, less skill, less needs, less education, less requirements of being able to do the job. Other way around. We earn less because, for reasons nobody can explain, our job is seen as female. So because nursing is seen as female, therefore we decide to pay nurses less. Not because nursing requires less skill. That's why we pay them less. And computer tech help. They're paid more because they're men. So what you're seeing is job gendering. You pay some people less because the job is seen as female. Even if there are both men and women in the job itself is gendered as female. So you pay them less. So job gendering is a very interesting idea. It's the idea that you're attaching your wage not to the competence or skill of the person doing the job. You're attaching your wage to the perceived, go back to Amartya Sen, perceived contribution, perceived interest, and now I'm going to add perceived skill. That you're attaching wages to jobs because of the perceived skill depending on the gender of the person doing the job. So the reason this matters is because it places a real dilemma for wage equity. So what this shows us is something very interesting. In my previous video, I talked about hiring, promotion, wages. All of that was about enabling women to enter male jobs. And you've heard this, right? I need more women in STEM. I need more women in computer science. Everything is about how you fix the wage gap, is to bring the women into the male job. But what happens when I do that? Let's take a look at this. So it turns out there's a long history of efforts, either accidental for historical reasons or proactively political, to do the work of mentorship and leadership and equity and pulling women into male jobs. So just to remember, EEOC and others are saying women are underpaid because we're not in these high-paid jobs. And if I can train and fix the women, get them into the high-paying fields, I can just have more computer scientists. I can just have more tech people. I can just have more women in all these high-paying fields. I will fix the wage gap. The problem is they're not being recruited, they're not being integrated, they're not being promoted. Let's look at some industries where we did that. So I'm going to give you 3 examples, and then we're going to look at what that means. So I already mentioned World War I in a previous video, and bank tellers. In the past, it was all men. Then the men went off to war, and the women had to cover that job. So they did it. Something suddenly happened. We started talking of this job as unskilled, not really mathy, even though who can help a client without having the math skills to talk about a bank. What happened was this job got reclassified. It got rewritten as not really a high school job once women entered it. So let's talk about a couple more. Secretaries, all women, right? Pink collar labor, all women. In the past, it was men. No manager had women secretaries. They had their clerks, their assistants. What happened was that in the early days, and this is actually true, they would have these competitions for typing. Women were considered to not be smart enough to be part of a typing pool, because our little brains couldn't handle QWERTY. We were taught to be unable to handle a keyboard that did A, B, C, D, E, F, G. That's what we could handle. And we had to, and QWERTY would be like too difficult for us. And they would have like these typing competitions between men, because the typewriter, the keyboard, was associated with men and with tech, male smartness. Then women started typing, and suddenly that was no longer brain. That was just data entry, silliness, training, but not intelligence. So what used to be the clerk, the peon, the typist, your helper, which used to be, remember this, a way in which you could get your promotion as a man. You would work for a major manager, 50s, 60s, and this manager would then make you a sub-manager, and then you would get your own career. That pathway shut down. So there is only one career right now where that word clerk gives you a career pathway, and that's law. You can be clerk for a judge. And if you're in law school, you clerk for a while and then you go up. No other career does that entry-level position give you a promotion path. So this is something interesting. So what happened is there used to be a pathway, which is what that old guy is talking about. That pathway is shut down. Too many women came into it. The moment the women came into it, they shut it down. You can't get promoted anymore. So it used to be toll booth operators were people same as firemen, policemen, other people who were part of a city infrastructure. You were doing jobs, maintaining public infrastructure, people on the roads, housing, traffic, transportation. You were considered equivalent to a fireman or a policeman, and you were allowed in the same unions, and you would get promoted in the same way. Then, after affirmative action, most toll booth operators became black and women of color. Suddenly, even though if you look at the data, that job is actually way more dangerous on a daily basis than firemen or policemen. Because on a day-to-day basis, you have no idea who's going to show up and scream at you, shoot a bullet at you, try and hit you when they don't want to pay tolls or they're upset at the traffic line or whatever. That's a very dangerous job. They are no longer included in the city unions. So once we actually integrated the job, they removed the job from the rest. And I'm going to give you a third example in business schools. And this one is marketing and accounting. We were told, integrate the women. We integrated them. The first degree women came into, minorities came into, was marketing. More of them entered it. Average salary in business school for marketing dropped compared to people getting BAs in accounting and finance. Just dropped. And the promotion ladder, where maybe, back in the day, Indra Nooyi, who became a major CEO out of marketing, she's probably one of the last ones. Women in marketing are not getting promoted to the CEO level. Men in marketing are not getting promoted to the CEO level. That's because there's too many women. Accounting is the one we're watching right now. Women are finally entering accounting. Men from minority communities are entering accounting. You used to be able to get your career path, your promotion, all the way to CEO from that. Shutting down. Now they talk about it. They are reclassifying the job. They talk about accounting as data entry, as you can subcontract it to the third world. Not really so smart. Salary entry level is dropping compared to finance and others. And promotion pathways are no longer going up all the way to CEOs. Finance, the only one left. So this is a very interesting question. We keep entering a profession. We enter biology, we're suddenly told biology is not as good as physics. We enter sociology, suddenly sociology is not as smart as economics. Reclassification means job gendering shuts down the pathways as soon as we make the change. And this is a problem. Because if I spend so much resources, so much time training women to do jobs, and then the jobs shut down their promotion ladder, how will I change the wage gap? So out of all the items, we've done as much as we can with training the women, with anti-discrimination. This is the one. Every time I succeed, pop, keeps stopping us. So what can we do?